The Good Companions Befriending Scheme helps older people and supports older people in this area. We help them to remain independent in their own home, and it allows our volunteers to keep an eye on them on a weekly basis and make sure that they're okay. And as and when the need arises, they can signpost them, or they can get me to signpost them to other services that they might need in the future to help them stay at home.
So how do you decide who is able to have a befriender?
To be referred to the scheme, people need to be over 65 years of age, living alone in their own home in the district, and of course they need to be totally in agreement with the referral if somebody else is referring them to the scheme.
And what happens? I mean, do you sort of say, right, okay, you've got, Mrs. So-and-so on your list. Is it completely up to the befriender how they spend that time? Or do you give them, for instance, do you say, right, you need to go into their home and spend that time with them, or can they take them out? I mean, how does it actually work?
When I take a referral, I go and visit everybody myself who's referred to the scheme. I have a chat to them in their own home, find out what their position is. I also find out a bit of background about them, nothing too personal, but things like places they were born and brought up, jobs they've done during their life, hobbies they've had. When we recruit the volunteers, we try and find the same sorts of things out about volunteers so that we can make a good match. And then I ask the volunteer to go in and visit and have a chat. Some of our volunteers they go for a purely social visit, chat and a cup of tea to give them some company that they're missing. Some of our volunteers do take people out, but it's very much whether they're able to go out, whether they want to go out. So I find out on the initial visit what they want from the scheme, whether it's to be able to go out or whether they want a home visit. And that's what we recruit a volunteer to do.
Oh, and what are the costs of all this?
Well, the good news is the cost of the befriending is absolutely free to the people that are referred to our scheme. So and it's one of the first questions that I'm usually asked when I go out to visit, so that's always a bit of good news to give them. The volunteers, we pay them, as other schemes do, their expenses, so we always pay the mileage if they're using their cars to go to and from the house, or if they're going on a bus, we pay their expenses. But for people on the scheme, referred to the scheme, it's absolutely free. And
I guess it's one of those things which benefits both sides, isn't it? It's not just a one-way street, this.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, a lot of the volunteers say they get as much out of it as the person that they're visiting. They have really interesting chats, find out all sorts of things, because older people have got a wealth of information to share, and the volunteers really enjoy having these chats, finding out about things. And of course we get really positive feedback from the people that they're visiting. It makes them feel better when they've seen somebody and had a good chat, they've had a laugh, they have fun together, and it improves their well-being as well.
And on the volunteer front, I mean, do people tend to befriend one person? Do they befriend several? Do you have a limit? You think, oh, no, you've got 15 now, that's too many.
Yeah. We always start people off visiting one person and make sure that it fits into the volunteer's life. And once they're happy doing that, if they want to visit somebody else, then they do. At the moment, we only have people visiting one person each, sometimes two. But it's important that it fits into the volunteer's life, because we want it to be a regular thing, and it needs to be reliable, because there's nothing worse if you're feeling isolated and lonely than expecting somebody to turn up that doesn't arrive. So most people visit one person each week, and the same person every week, so they can build up a relationship.
And how do you find the people who are going to have those visits? Because I can't imagine it's the kind of thing that people pick the phone up and go, I need a befriender.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean,
No.
How do you...
That's the biggest problem, finding people who are isolated and lonely, because if they're not going out and they're not seeing anybody, then it's quite difficult. Most of our referrals in the last few years have come from either Seven Locks Housing, who are part funding the scheme, or from adult and communities. We get referrals. I publicise it with all the different agencies and networks that there are out there. We take referrals from anywhere. So we've had, like I say, from Seven Locks, adult and communities, GPs, district nurses, anybody and everybody. Other voluntary agencies refer to us. Family and friends can also refer somebody to us, and people can self-refer if they know about it. But as you say, it's difficult to get them to know about it if they're not leaving their house.
Yeah, and I mean, it's easy to see the difference that it makes to people's lives. Because I suppose also, I mean, just say on a really practical sense, is that befriender might pick up things about the person
Absolutely.
that maybe relatives have missed.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the people on the scheme have no relatives. They don't have relatives living nearby. And the volunteer going in on a weekly basis is obviously, as you say, able to check that they're okay each week, report back to me if there are any problems, and we can refer them on to somewhere else if necessary. So, yes, it works really well. And we have very positive feedback from all our service users that it's something to look forward to every week. They look forward to their volunteer coming, to have a nice chat and a bit of fun and a laugh, and it makes them feel much better after the visit, which in turn has an effect on their health.
Yeah.